Right, welcome to another episode of the Powerful Eyes podcast. Today we've got friend, DJ, legend in my eyes, and many more, Ross Mack.
Ooh, friend.
How are you, mate? Friend.
Yeah, I'm good, thanks, mate. You
good?
good?
Yeah, I'm good. Yeah, it's
Thanks
been a long
for having
time
me
coming,
on.
this one.
I know, thanks, mate. Thanks for asking me to come on.
You're an hard man to track down these days. You know? You're a busy boy.
Yeah, he's busy. He's going to get busy with the twins on the way.
Yeah, of course,
People
yeah.
keep telling me that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm just trying to cram everything in before they come, but they might even come sooner, so who knows.
Yeah. Yeah, it's odd graft, mate, when they're there, I'm sure.
Yeah,
But
people keep telling me that.
yeah. Listen, I want to obviously get you on here to share your life. I know you've had quite a few different layers of this life, and obviously a lot of people know you as DJ Ross Mack, but I'd like to share how you got to where you are now.
Thanks,
Obviously,
mate.
it's been a bit of a drawn-out process, but
Yeah.
take us back.
How long you been hanging around that process for? How long do you think it's been?
15 years?
Yeah, I've been
Yeah.
clean over a decade, so it's got to be 15, isn't it?
Yeah, is it a decade now?
Oh, well, it's decade, a couple of months, so yeah, so I shot a bit too soon there. But yeah, it's been a while, mate. Thanks for being a good friend to
All
me.
good, mate. All good. Yeah, I've been. I've seen both sides of it.
You have,
know,
yeah.
so-
We'll get to that, I guess. That was that wasn't my low point, but that was a low point of many low points. But yeah, I'll talk about that actually, because that was yeah, we'll get to that bit. But I guess like going back to the start, like a thing in recovery we always talk about is or what a lot of people in recovery always go, if you had my life, you'd do what I did, and I always thought if you had my life, you'd do what I did. And how does my life look? I come from a really nice family, like we wanted for nothing growing up, and then my dad, as we got to sort of teenagers, done really well and become very successful. And so not only did we have everything we ever wanted, we had more than we ever dreamed of. So my life growing up was actually amazing.
Yeah, it
You know what I
sounded it. Yeah,
Yeah, it was really cool.
big house.
Yeah, we had all the nice stuff, and now as an adult, I do know it's not all about that stuff, but it helps.
Yeah, big time.
It
It's the old analogy of rather crying in a Ferrari than
Yeah,
on the street.
I would say that to Kat, but but I now know it's not about that stuff, but it that was my childhood, and it was I'm really grateful.
It's one thing you can't blame the process of what happened in your life on.
Yeah.
You can't blame it on the hardships of
Yeah,
poverty.
definitely. But I would have said in my head, I would have said, yeah, but if you had my life, you do what I did. And then actually, when I got clean and analysing it, it was like, actually, do you know what, my life was really bloody good. I grew up in a nice area, Broxbourne, and so that's my story. That in recovery, we talk a lot. People talk about some really sad stuff, and that just ain't my story. And growing up, I've lost a few friends and stuff like that. But actually, I've got to an age where my mum and dad are still alive now. They don't really speak, but but I'm really lucky, fortunate for that. I know,
Yeah.
obviously with
And
you,
listen, they're both
your
nice
dad.
people.
Yeah, do you know what I mean? And yeah, they are, and I'm really close to both of them and all that sort of stuff. So, I look a lot of my friends. Like you lost your dad early, and like one of my bestest mate, he ain't got a mum or dad. Do you know what I mean? So, me and my brother talked about the other day that that's probably a bigger thing than a lot of people have got.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, no, I grew up. I was born and raised in Cheshunt. I'm a Cheshunt boy, really. But I say when Dad done really well, we moved to Broxbourne, and I'd really say I'm a Broxbourne boy. But yeah, I started in Cheshunt, and I went to Broxbourne school and grew up there. But I suppose really for me, like life started. So when I was 5, I was expelled from my infant school, and.
How'd you get expelled at 5?
Our mate Grant, a good friend Grant, he always talks about it. And do you know? So with addiction and stuff like like with ADHD, like it wasn't really a thing when I was a kid, and I've been diagnosed with that later on in life, and it wasn't a thing when I was a kid. But I was irritable and discontent. I used to be. I would sit in the class. I always remember this. And I'd just walk out the assembly room. I'd go and sit in. And now as an adult, my brain still does that. Like when I sat down, my brain says, go and walk over there. Like if we go for dinner and stuff, I find it really hard to sit down. I'm better. I'm getting better at it, but I'm aware of it. But as a kid, I used to just walk out, and I used to kick teachers, and they thought I was showing off in front of my twin sister, because I've got a twin sister and I've got an older brother. So they thought I was showing off in front of my sister, so they moved me to other classes, and that didn't, So and I was just crazy, you know, really, really crazy. And just like I say, I would do a lot of crazy stuff. And so at 5, I got expelled from Flamstead End. I know, and I had to go to this special school in Hoddesdon for naughty kids. And, you know, I was in a special unit, and I met a friend there. He's still a friend of mine today, actually. And he come in a couple of weeks after, and we're still friends as well. And he was a bit crazy. And, yeah, we just really naughty. And so for me, like, that, you know, that mental, you know, that allergy, that addiction, you know, that crazy stuff started from that, for me.
Did you feel like at that age you knew there was something wrong?
Nah, not at all. Like, and even when I was growing up at school, I didn't think like really there was something wrong. Do you know what I mean? So but it explains a lot now. Do you know what I mean? Like, it wasn't normal for me just to walking out of the class. But as an adult now, my brain still feels that. So I now look back at that and just think that was an early age of, you know. So when I was born with an umbilical cord around my neck, and they thought I was going to be disabled. And my dad, I come out and I was blue, and they didn't know if the oxygen had been starved, then there was going to be something wrong with me. So my dad always says, oh, you know, thank God there's nothing wrong with you. And I always go, well, actually, probably. Do you know what I mean? Like, actually, I beg to differ, which is fine. Do you know what I mean? So, yeah, you know, it just...
90%.
Yeah, 90%, like... and that's after 90% of our memes, isn't it, in our group? But yeah, so from an early age, so like in recovery, we you know, we talk about school life, you know, and what addictions about fear and stuff like that as well. And I always remember, and not like consciously knowing it, but like I'd have a lot of fear. Do you know what I mean? Like at school and stuff like that, fear of a lot of stuff. And you know, even now as an adult. But
do kids, do most kids not have that fear anyway?
Probably,
you know, fear of public speaking, or fear of, you know, because I think they're so worried about being judged.
Yeah, probably. And then it's just a fear of everything. Do you know what I mean? And then that's kind of stuck with me, that fear. But I think from an early age, I did feel like I had a hole in my soul, and I did just feel like, you know what I mean? I just don't feel right. And again, probably like most kids probably felt that way. You know, and then I got to, you know, I started drinking at like 13, which is probably quite normal. But for me, like, what happened was, my brother will always tell you, I don't know if he's told you a story, but I was, when I was drinking at 16, I'd done a first party out, and I'd come back, my brother found me asleep in the road, and he nearly run me over. They were driving up the road, and then the cab driver goes, oh, what's that in the road? And they pulled over, and it was me asleep in the road. Do you know what I mean? So from an early age, like, everything I do is extreme. And, you know, it's just extreme. I'll just take everything to it. So from an early age, even when I was drinking, you know, I wasn't saying like I was always blacking out and stuff like that, but, you know what I mean? But from that early age, I've had that drink, and I just thought, oh, do you know, I feel all right.
Do you think that's generational? As in, like, I don't feel like the kids do it as much now. But back then, I think you did start drinking a bit earlier. But I feel like we become adults earlier.
Yeah, definitely. Because I looked at my nephew. My nephew was 14, and I see him today. And like, I don't know, maybe I just think they're so different from us. Like, you know, I was always small and stuff like that, but I had my brother's ID. So, you know, we were drinking in pubs at 16. I don't think they do that now. No. I think it's completely different.
I had 3 18th birthday parties in one pub, in the same pub. I just remember him saying, how old are you today? I said, I'm 18. He was like, you've been 18 for the last 2 years, you bastard.
I bet you looked older, didn't you, as well? When you
I was lucky, I was lucky, yeah.
But it is different. It is different generation. I guess we'll get to that as well with the kids and stuff like that, and you know, we're partying and stuff like that. But it is definitely a different generation. But yeah, just at the age of, so what happened was I started buying music at like sort of 11, 12. We started getting into music and stuff like that, and then by 13 I had decks, and I'd done my first sort of under 18s party at sort of the age of 13, so I was sort of playing then, and then by the age of 16 I was playing in nightclub. Friend of ours, Mark Wiggins, he's like my big brother. He's my big brother's best friend, so he gave me my first gig at 16. So in 16 I was playing in clubs.
Nice.
Yeah, so not only, you know, was we sneaking into clubs, and obviously I was DJing in clubs, so again at that age it was pretty cool. Do you know what I mean? Drink, drugs and women. At that age it was like, God, I really had arrived and thought this is pretty good.
Living a dream.
Living a dream, yeah. And then and that was kind of how my journey started around that stuff with drinking drugs. But for me, like, you know, like, so I've got a really obsessive nature, and I obsess about everything. So when you one of the things I'd done was I'd started running, and then I'd never run before. I run a little bit, then I run a marathon. Then I started doing triathlons, and when we done the London Triathlon, and then I started cycling. I cycled to Paris. So everything I do is excessive, and
Can we just talk about that London Triathlon as well? Because
yeah,
a lot of people won't know, but I waited for you to get. I come out to swim about 3 or 4 minutes before you, and I waited for you.
I don't know what you mean, mate.
And then the first corner on the bike, my chain come off, and I just see you fuck off straight past me. I was like, I don't believe this.
Is there any witnesses to this?
I'll never forget that, honestly.
Yeah, that was sore, mate. Sorry, mate. But then I think they cut the course early, and you end up ahead of me. So there was definitely
I think I just picked it up, mate. I picked it up.
Yeah, but you never overtook me, so God knows how you got ahead of me. But,
allegedly. Is there any proof of that?
Yeah, but like with the London Marathon, like, so I've never run and I'm running marathons, but with the London Marathon, I was sat in a room on my own sniffing gear. The same with the triathlon, and this is, I need to get honest about, I had 2 grams of gear in me at the triathlon.
Really?
I've never told you that, sorry, mate. But I did. I just thought I did, because I needed it after, and it was like a treat, and I took that in my bag, and that ain't normal behaviour.
See, I've always been quite naive to it, even though I've been around it forever.
Yeah.
I've having never tried it, I kind of don't know what I'm looking for.
Yeah.
I wouldn't expect that.
Yeah.
Because I wouldn't expect it. I wouldn't even sort of know to expect it.
But then most normal people wouldn't do that. Do you know what I mean?
No.
They wouldn't take 2 grams of gear to end the triathlon in. But and the same when we did London to Paris. We went out in Paris. Well, I don't know if you might remember, but we end up getting gear like a sniffer dog. We'll always find that and that stuff out. So everything, I always thought it was like a treat. Like, oh, I just done a marathon, but it's what happened is I'd achieved some really good stuff, like I run a marathon and stuff like that. And I was really quite driven around stuff. I couldn't understand when it came to drinking drugs. I was really powerless around that stuff. So I was just like, why can't I stop doing this? You know what I mean? Because if I did it like once in a blue moon, it'd be all right. But, everything I do is excessive, and just got really, really dark really early on.
I think London to Paris, when we done it, was the first time I actually realised that you had a bit of a problem.
Yeah.
Because I think from memory, you actually even drove home.
Yeah, I did.
With the bikes.
Yeah.
Just so you could carry on.
Yeah. So I'd gone right through, and then someone had to go with the bike, and I sort of nominated myself for that. And it was a way of just drinking and using the whole way home, because it was just me and him, and and that weren't even really dark, but that was just, but that's just norm, like you just become normal, like
no
a Tuesday
off
night, no off switch, and Tuesday night, and then you just going right through, going to work the next day and all that kind of stuff. But it gets dark really quickly. With me again, it's just how obsessive I am, that once I just start, I can't stop. Once I'm using, all I keep thinking about is getting more. And and that's the same with everything. With like, if I like food, I buy. If I like food, I like something new, I'll eat it every day. If I like clothes, I buy all the colours. I just get really zoned in and obsessive, and I really try and use that now to channel that into the good stuff. You know what I mean? But when you're in that life of that drinking and using, and we were talking earlier, I was talking to someone about, like when you're in that life, you blame everyone. It's everyone else's fault, but your fault. And it's a sort of, it's time to grow up. Like I get. I probably had like 5 people that I know really well reach out to me recently and say they're struggling, and I get that a lot. People are really, really struggling, and when I got clean, I didn't know anyone that didn't really drink.
No, I think that's do you know what? I remember, this sounds really weird, right? But my first, I don't know, even sort of the first time I actually see sobriety was on EastEnders. And it was when Phil Mitchell was told he had to stop drinking. And that sounds really weird, but I remember thinking I couldn't picture life without alcohol. And obviously, I don't deem myself to have a drink problem or anything, but I couldn't deem myself to not go and have a beer, because I grew up in a culture where we're builders and we go work and we go to a pub, and we might have pub lunch, or like it was like, especially going back 25, 30 years ago, the culture was work, beer.
Yeah.
Obviously, I was lucky I never got involved in the drugs, but I can't imagine what you had to go through for the life change to actually go, right, no more of that. No, it's a scary,
Yeah.
for me, just looking in, it's scary. So for you, it's...
Yeah, it's weird because, so a couple of things. I was going to take this girl out on a date, and she worked in one of the clubs that I worked at, and a friend of mine, she used to manage there, and I said, but really, and she was like, oh, cool. And then she was like, she don't drink. And I was like, oh, right. And I was like, no, I was out straight away. I thought, what sort of, how can I mix with someone that don't drink? Like, what sort of people don't drink?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? All our friends drink, and drink on, most of them drink and use or whatever. And I just thought, well, I wouldn't have associated with someone that didn't drink or, certainly didn't drink. So I bombed it off, I was just like, because I just couldn't associate with someone like that. And, I just, same as you. Like, I just couldn't imagine, like, living in the world
that way, yeah.
Yeah, like, because, I work in an industry where they encourage us, we get given drink and you get given drug, and women, so you're encouraged to party lifestyle, and you get all them DJs that are really well known for being like caners and that kind of stuff, especially as well in that era, like remember the Biggest Caners and all that kind of stuff, like that's our era where we grew up, all the celebrities would be in the paper and the Biggest Caner award of the year. Russell Brand used to win it and stuff like that. So
they were actually promoting it.
Yeah, so they were promoting, like Geezer Birds and Pat Partying. So it was all about that kind of lifestyle growing up. And obviously in our industry, in the drink and drugs and stuff, like if I'd pop round someone's house on a Wednesday, even if I didn't know them, and then someone come around and a bit of thing, and that's it, and then you're off and partying. So then you're like, do we just become best friends? Do you know what I mean? That's what it is, like, because you've got that common thing, and that's not normal. It's normal to go to a meeting or a DJ meeting, and everyone end up getting on it and partying for 2 days.
Yeah.
Which is wrong. It shouldn't be like that, but that's how it's become, and there is a change, and I guess maybe we'll get to that a bit more later, but I've noticed a change, there is a change in mental health, and there's a change in people talking about recovery and people getting sober, and there's people speaking out. But it's funny because I run a sober event on Sunday, and it was really good, really enjoyed it, and I had a friend of mine, Dr. Rachel, who she's written books and talks about ADHD, and she used to be a promoter, and she runs events, and her boyfriend's a really big known DJ, and then another lady called Paris Savet, and she's a producer, amazing. She doesn't drink, so they both spoke, and it was quite it was really good. People come there and talk about wellness and stuff like that, and breath work and all the kind of things that you kind of get to, which I'll talk about a bit later, about what you kind of get to after you get clean. And someone asked this question, said, shouldn't you think this should be pushed out more to the industry? And my answer was, A, 1,000,000%, but B, no one cares. People are not interested. People are not interested in, I met, I went out, I've done some work recently for a really well-known family, and they was asking me about DJing and stuff like that, and I was telling them about some of the stuff, and I was really, really into it. And I was sort of saying, I do a lot of sober stuff. And as soon as I said sober stuff, like they couldn't care less. Like, they're not interested, not because they're parties, but they're just like, who cares about your sober stuff? Do you know what I mean? And so you've got to remember,
want the fun stuff.
We want the fun stuff. We want about our beef and partying for 3 days and that sort of stuff. And so people in our industry, like, they're not done parties, so they're not interested. So it's very difficult for us to come across where we're not preachy. But I know a lot of people are struggling, and ravers, and people in, it's not just our industry, it's every industry. I've got friends that are in photocopying companies, and all their industry, and builders and scaffolders. So it's not just my industry, but it's a lot of industries. People are struggling.
Yeah. I mean, you think of the City Boys. Like, the City Boys were renowned just to be shoveling gear every day.
Well, it's funny you should say that, because my brother said to me when I got clean, he said I was going to be full of City Boys, and yet of course them lot are renowned for it. But it is every industry.
Yeah,
it's the butcher, the car mechanic. It's it's accessible now. Drink, all that stuff's more accessible. Whereas obviously in the 70s and 80s it was for them the party, but now it's
and I
accessible
think it was expensive back then as well. Yeah.
So it is. When we go meetings and stuff like that, you get everyone from every walk of life.
I think from a City Boy point of view as well, I think they kind of done away with the sort of East London white boy trader, and they're now serious, seriously educated people, drafted in. The people are getting their friend's son in and
Yeah.
bring him in, and
long gone.
that person's not
Yeah.
there anymore, are they? Like,
Yeah,
it's-
that's true. Yeah,
it has changed. The city's changed.
yeah, that's true. So, but yeah, so it's you know, not you know, just trying to. It's just trying about educating people and just saying, look, like I got nothing against people who want to drink and party, but if you get to a point where actually that you want to look at that stuff, like you know, there's help out there and stuff like that, and you know, I try and be open to everyone. And like I say, I get messages in my inbox like quite a lot, you know, sometimes daily, people that are really struggling, and it's mad. Like this guy messaged me the other day. He's after he'd been on a 5-day bender, and you know, he's like quite suicidal and stuff like that. I spoke to him 2 days after. He's like, oh, you know, I'm all right. And I'm like, cool. You know, it's really difficult. There's a lot of people need this, but most people don't want to do it.
And I think that's a little bit that you get that sort of anxiety. You know, like people on a Monday are not necessarily depressed. They're hungover, or they're out their nut from Saturday. You know, like what you're saying there, they get a couple of days in and they feel a little bit better, and then all of a sudden they don't want to change their life.
Yeah.
They want to go and do it again on Friday.
Yeah.
Right.
It's crazy. It's the only illness that tell you ain't got one. And you people get a couple of days clean and they're like, I'm back in the game. And I get loads of messages late night as well. People are off their nut.
Yeah.
And they message me, then they sometimes delete them and stuff like that. I get that quite a lot as well. So yeah, it's really difficult because, you know, you want to help everyone, you want to save everyone, but ultimately the only one I can help is myself, really. You know, but the help is out there. But, you know, when I got clean, I do think it was different. Like, it was, it was just under 10 years ago, but it's changed so much now, which is really good. People are so much more open about this stuff. But I didn't really talk about recovery and that for like 5 years. Like I remember like my brother saying to me, like, so we have a family business, as you know, and he sort of said to me, look, I don't really want you telling everyone what you're doing. And I agreed with him. Do you know what I mean? I did agree with him, and I was like, no, it's cool. And he was like, look, just, you know, do your thing, crack on, and just kind of keep it yourself. And I did that, and then I, you know, and then the sort of changing now is like he tells people about.
It's fashionable now.
Yeah,
it's almost on trend, isn't it?
Yeah, and he tells people now, like people will say, oh, you know, he's like, my brother, you know what I mean? And that's the change, you know, where you know I can see that he's proud that, you know, I've changed and that, but that took a while, you know, and it like, and this is not like digging people out, but I see people online so much going on about, you know, and stuff, and I don't mean this to come across in a way, but I just think, you know what, I just think focus on your recovery.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
focus on, you know, and, you know, do I think that, you know, what I do now, talking about it a lot is the best thing to do? I honestly don't know, you know.
I don't think it's not a dirty word anymore.
No.
I think recovery 15, 20 years ago,
Yeah.
you know, it was a dirty word. It meant, you know, you're picturing some sort of junkie curled up in a corner.
Yeah.
Whereas now sobriety and recovery does seem to be on trend.
Yeah.
You know, it's fashionable, it's accessible, and it's openly, you know, like you say, now you can talk about it openly.
Yeah.
50% of everyone we have on the pod has been through recovery at some point. You know, it's like the world's changing. I think the world is changing.
I think the good thing as well is that, you know, you don't have to go as dark as I did in some of the weird, you know, which is great, you know, like my friend who spoke on Sunday, her reason for stopping was different. And, you know, there's loads of different reasons for stopping. So, you know, I encourage anyone, just because my story was dark and that doesn't mean you have to get to that. You know, like, I was at someone the other day and he said, you know, I go gym a lot and I just wanted to feel better. And, you know, and he's just like, I don't need it. And, you know, 90% of people don't need a drink. You know, you don't need a drink to chat. You know, you chat more than, you know, so, and that's the kind of thing I say to a lot of people as well. One of my friends has just stopped and I said to him, you don't need that alcohol, you know, but we're conditioned and we're brought up that society, it's normal, you know, to have a drink and stuff like that. So, like, I literally do all the stuff I used to do, and obviously I do like a million times more things, but I do all that stuff. I just don't drink.
Yeah.
I still go out, go to festivals, still DJ, go out and all that sort of stuff. But, you know, it's slightly different, but I still mix with all the same people. You know, I had to drop out some people to a degree. You know, some people I still love them, just love them from afar. You know, and I had to kind of work on myself for a bit. And the thing is as well, like nearly 10 years in, like, I still work on myself every day. You know, every day. I've just been back through the steps in recovery with another sponsor, you know, and I sponsor and I help people, and I'll try and maybe talk a little bit about that stuff as well. Do
you think that majorly helps you? helping others.
1,000,000%, yeah. So yeah, we say like you can't keep this stuff if you don't give it away. And you know, if I'm helping you, I'm not thinking about me. You know, so it's massively so. And then you know, I'm part of a 12-step fellowship, and by me going back through with someone else doing the steps, I'm reliving it myself as well.
Yeah.
So what we do is we read through the big book together, and when I read it, it's the only book that I read. It reads different every time. So I'm reading it and I'm like, wow, and I highlight stuff and I'm writing and stuff like that. So by me helping someone else, it's a two-way street. Like we always say, like people, you know, if you help someone, they say, yeah, like, oh, thanks so much. Like, no, you're helping me more than I'm helping you. Trust me.
Yeah.
You know,
and I suppose if you failed, you've let that person down as well. You know, if you relapsed.
Oh yeah.
You've now you're kind of a shining example to someone else. So I suppose from that point of view, it just something else to keep you on the straight and narrow.
Yeah, and it's that reminder as well. Like when I'm working with someone new, like they remind me of bloody hell. I remember doing that stuff. Do you know what I mean? Like whereas I'm quite a way removed from that now. But you know, when I talk to them, I go, "Yeah, I did that." You know, I did that, and then like that's how you kind of get that one to one. Oh, you did, yeah. And then they would tell me something, and I would share something, and go, "Yeah, I did that. I did this," and then like, "Whoa," do you know what I mean? And then it's like, but yeah, just that reminder, and you know, like so, we've been in 12-step fellowship. Like step 12 is helping others, but and it's about helping other addicts, but actually it's about being a good person. Do you know what I mean? Like so, we talk about practicing these principles in all our affairs. Practicing. So, what does that really mean? Well, it means like, you know, I can sell this stuff on this podcast today and say I'm amazing, that sort of stuff, and you know, but how am I really? You know, do I go? Am I to my wife? You know, am I to my neighbour? You know, if someone knocks on the door, something in the hand, you know, do I drive down the road and do road rage? It's all them kind of things, you know what I mean? And so I try and practice these principles in my affair to try and be a good person, you know, and it's about doing it and not, you know, like I saw a friend of mine the other day giving someone some money on Facebook and filming it, and I was just like, unfriend, you know what I mean? I just like
it's the worst. It's the worst.
It's the worst, you know, and it's just like, help someone, just do it, you know what I mean? And like, it's really difficult because, you know, sometimes I want to post stuff and go, look, this is what we're doing, but you just got to look at your, you know, what's my, I can't remember the word I'm looking for, but you know, like what's around, you know, what am I trying to do around it? You know, just
take the ego out of it and do it for you, do it for the good.
Yeah. So it's just about doing that stuff silently. You know what I mean? Like, you know, I you know, what's really nice is I get a lot of messages online, and because I speak to a lot of people, like I don't remember everyone. Then I get a message like 6 months later, someone going to me, "Oh, I'm 6 months clean," and you're like, I don't know excuses. I look for a message and I go, oh right, yeah, I remember him because he's mates with so and so or whatever. And I'm like, and that's what, you know, I get inspired by stuff like that. So it's really nice. I get that regularly where people messing me out of the blue and they've, you know, followed me and sort of see my journey and stuff. And like, I'm not here to inspire anyone, but if I can help someone, then it's you know what I mean, it's part of the battle.
Yeah. And the thing is, I think them people inspire you at the same time as you're inspiring them. I think that's the great thing of listen. I've never been through the 12 steps, as you know. But I like what it's all about because I speak to so many people who have been through it and they've made a life for themselves that they didn't have. You know, I could name 10 people who had nothing, like they had nothing, and have now got businesses, they've got families, you know, they've got happiness that they never would have had.
Yeah, your close mate who's a friend of mine, you know, he's like 20 odd years, you know, and he's changed, and that's I think the thing that, you know, not saying I don't get inspired outside, but, you know, I get to go to meetings and see people, and I see people come in and they're like, you know, their life is done, no one likes them, everyone hates them, they've got nothing. And then, you know, like one of my friends, like he was on a missing person list for 2 years. He was living in London. His girlfriend died, and his mum come in London. They eventually found him, got him back, got him into treatment, got him clean. Eventually, it wasn't straight away. He's now got a wife, 2 kids, and he has his own business and he employs people in recovery. You know, like there's stories that you don't hear every day, you know, like, and I get inspired and I hear stuff like, say, the guy messaged me, I'm 6 months clean, you know, and he's telling me all the dark stuff before, and then, you know, and
year 3, he could have been dead.
100%, you know, like that's the thing in recovery is a lot of people die, you know, a lot of people take their own life. You know, we can talk about that. You know, I do a lot, I've done a lot of stuff around, about mental health and suicide awareness and stuff as well. You know, that's something that I'm really big on as well, is talking about it. And one of the things that I've been taught is to say to someone, like, have you had suicidal thoughts? You know, and when I first heard that, I was like, are you sure? And they're like, yeah, that's what, you know, because I've done a few courses, and, you know, I've worked with a few people. A friend of mine teaches a lot around it. So, you know, I'm not saying I know everything, because I don't know. But, you know, I've learned, and I read a lot of stuff on it. And one of the things that I've been taught is that you have to say to someone, look, have you had suicidal? And I've done that. And I've done it to a few people, and they've said, yeah. And I tell you what, it's scary.
Yeah.
It's really scary. Yeah. But I'm
biggest killer in men under 45s.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
And the figures are going up. And I listened to something this week about in America how much it's going up, and it's like kids and adults and stuff now. It's like you know, life's not going too well. What should I do? And one of the things on that list of things, you know, is like, do I get a job? Do I talk to someone? Do I do this? I can just kill myself.
Yeah,
you know. And I think growing up, you probably, you know, like you knew someone who knew someone, and I know people every year that are going.
Definitely, but I think that we live in a world, especially the last couple of years, last 3 or 4 years through COVID, and now the financial crisis. People are struggling, and a person on an average wage trying to bring up a family of 4 or 5 people. I don't know how they do it.
Yeah,
honestly, Ross, I don't know how they do it, and there's a lot of people out there who are barely existing, and it's no way to live.
Yeah.
You know, things have become so expensive the last couple of years, especially. Like, I feel sorry. There's a heap of pressure on the average man.
Yeah. Funny enough, the doctor I was listening to was talking about that. He was talking about the pressure on men and stuff like that, and you know, and society. What's the answer to that?
There is no answer to that I can see. I mean, where do you've got a guy who's just about keeping his family fed. What happens when it's his wife's birthday or his kid's birthday or Christmas is coming?
Yeah.
Like, you know, honestly, it makes me so sad. So sad. The pressure must be unbelievable for for these people on the sort of poverty line.
Because so the study they did, words that men were doing when they before they were taking their own life, but they was saying words like you know, worthless, useless.
Yeah.
All these kind of things where, you know, these were all the words they were using, how they thought about themselves before they, I don't want to say, so the word committed suicide is an old word. We don't say that anymore. So because committed suicide, it used to be a crime, so we don't say that. It's death by suicide. Right. So just and I will try and remember not to say that. But yeah, it's even about changing the wording around it and just trying to educate people and just trying to get men talking. You know, I'm in a men's group with Dapper, obviously a friend of both of ours, and I think, you know, Dan's done amazing. You know, he's had his own struggles, and what he done was he set up this group. It's called Mates Men and Their Emotions. So if you're on Facebook, give us a follow or comment. It's not really a follow; it's getting in the group. And what the group is made for is for men to come in and talk about stuff that's going on in their life. So I'm a moderator in there, and we post the stuff. And then, like, someone might put in their role, like, I don't know, like, my wife cheated on me. I don't know what to do. I've got 2 kids. So we'll post that, and then, you know, people will give rather than giving their opinions, people give their experiences, which I think is 2 different things. We can all say, do this, do that, but unless you've lived it, you know, it's really difficult. So I don't comment on much stuff in there.
Don't you think it's incredible, like, how many people are literally living the same lives?
Yeah.
You know, it's the same problems each time.
It's the same problems.
Yeah.
I'm not joking. So the majority of the problems are the same. They're a lot of them are the same. So we try and, so it's really difficult for us moderators because we're trying to post everything. We can only post every hour. You know, but the main stuff that people post about is addiction, it's drink, drugs and gambling. So we can't post that every hour because a lot of people, they get off their nut and post in there as well. So we try and mix up the post, and then someone will say, I'm struggling with addiction, and we just sort of message them, go, look, there's loads of posts on there. So people talk about it, and people go, you know, and we got loads of people in the fellowship and stuff, and then just talk about stuff, you know. So I don't talk about, like, someone will say, like, my partner passed away, or my dad died. So, you know, I won't jump on something I've got no experience around, but also I'll try and help with the recovery stuff. But it's really good. There'll be people in there that will go, you know, like, my dad passed away, but, you know, I've been there, and it's a really nice space where people can come and ask stuff.
I feel like people in there are offering advice as well. Like you said, they're not, like if they're anywhere else on social media, they're just trolls everywhere and just there'll be abuse.
Yeah.
Whereas I do feel like you say it's quite a nice space in there where people are getting the right advice,
Yeah, and don't get me wrong, like there is trolling and stuff.
Yeah, of course.
And so one of the problems we have, and one of the big things that we have is what you spoke about. One of the big things that people post about is money. People are really struggling, and they're saying, it's my kid's birthday, so we get that a lot, and
they're looking for handouts.
Yeah,
I've seen.
So
it.
there's
I've
a lot.
Seen it.
Yeah, so a lot of them seem genuine, but because we don't know, and because we're worried about some people have been given over money and stuff like that, we don't post them ones because it's really difficult for us because we want to help people, but we don't want to get in a realm of he's giving someone money and we because there's non-genuine people out there as well. So there are people in there buying people presents, stuff like that, and we just don't know. So we try not to post that. But that's one of the things people talk about a lot is struggling money. The other thing to talk about is drinking drugs and alcohol. One of the big things they talk about is not seeing their kids.
Yeah.
That's massive.
Yeah.
Massive, that one. I didn't realise how big that one was. And a friend of mine, actually I'll put you on to him, a friend of mine, Noel, was doing really amazing stuff. And he's talking about that stuff, and he's talking about what a scam it is with the money, and they're coming after people, and blokes are taking their own lives over it because they're over asking for money and what they can afford, and these guys just can't deal with it.
There was a big thing. I don't know if it was the same guy, but a guy went on James English's pod. Is it him?
Yeah, I'll put you on.
Yeah, really, really good guy. Yeah,
really, yeah, and he's really exposing it all.
They're literally bleeding people to the point of suicide. Like, it's crazy.
Well, no, they're people are. Yeah, people are taking their own lives over it, and so and we get that a lot on there. So these are the kind of the stuff that we're talking. Don't get me wrong. There's loads of other stuff. Guys cheating or being cheated on. There's loads of stuff, but generally they're the kind of the big topics for us, and we're just trying to make a difference. No one's getting paid, and even we took quite a bit of abuse on there and stuff like that. And we just say to people, look, we're just normal guys that have a job and have families and have lives, and we're just trying to help. And one that we get a lot is people want to take their own life, and we get that probably nearly every day. We get messages from people saying, I don't want to be here anymore, or words to that effect. And it is, I tell you honestly, it is heartbreaking. And we're not, we've got a pack that we send to them, and we just say, look, these are the people that you need to speak to. You need to speak to professionals, because we're not professionals and we're not claiming to be. All we're just trying to do is make a difference. And Dan's done amazing with that, and he's set up a charity, and there's loads of big things to come with it. But it's really cool. It's just about men helping other men, and I run a men's meeting as well. I've got my own recovery men's meeting that I run, that I started in lockdown, and it's become a men's meeting. Not because I don't help women, because I do. I'm not here to say that it's all about the men. It's certainly not about that. But it's just
that's what's good for you as well. Like, you're a man, you're helping men. It's like that's what you said earlier. That's what you've got experience in.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and that's it. And like in recovery, often it's like men stick to men, women stick to women. I believe that. For me, and like I say, don't get me wrong, I've got loads of girl mates, and I'm recovering and I talk about stuff. But yeah, I do stick with just the guys because that works for me.
Yeah, nothing wrong with that at all.
So, but yeah, that's amazing. That's on Facebook, and again, like that was just so. Like when I got clean, all this stuff wasn't. When I got clean, I thought, God, am I ever going to DJ again? Like I just thought, it doesn't matter if I can stop. And the truth of the matter is, I never thought I would stop. And I haven't got to how dark it got, and I don't need to. My using got really dark, and I didn't want to kill myself, but I didn't care about living. And
would you talk about your darkest moments? When did you first realise that you actually had a problem you had to solve?
Oh, like early 20s. Yeah, early 20s. It was like my using just got weird. I was using my own. This is party drug, and I talk about. I've worked in Ibiza, and I stood at Brittle Walls, and so I've done some really. I've played all over the world, done some really cool stuff. But what I couldn't understand was when it comes to just drink and drug, I was powerless over this stuff. What happened was I worked abroad for a couple of years, and I remember I didn't take any drugs for 6 months, and I got back to England and I thought, wicked, like I'll just drink now, that's cool. I've had 6 months off, and I used that first day I come back, and I was like, Do you know what I mean? And we in recovery call that a geographical. So you do the geographical where, you know, if I stay around him, and then I won't use. But I'd come back and I use that first day, and I couldn't get my head around it. I was like, I had 6 months off, you know. But
what do you think that was? I mean, why do you think you actually jumped back on it? Do you think it's just the comfort of being back home where you've always done drugs?
Yeah, and it's but what happened in the end was I thought, well, if I stop speaking to Steve and I don't know around with Dave and I stop going to this club, then I won't do it. And but yet I still end up doing it. So it's me. It's a Ross problem. You know what I mean? And it's just that obsessive nature.
Sometimes you just find excuses, don't you? I mean, like we do it. Listen, we all do it with whether it's food or exercise, or, you know, like everyone's got. No one lives a perfect life.
Definitely, yeah.
You know, and I think it's just you're doing it with drugs, drinking drugs. That's kind of got a little bit more instant side effects. You know,
but yeah, I don't know, but I know that, like, I never once thought. Say I was in a day, I never once thought, I might get on it tonight. I never didn't. Always did. Do you know what I mean? Always did.
Was you using every day?
No, I wasn't an everyday user. But then I remember, you know, I went all weekend and I ended up using like Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. So if I had the funds, I would have been using every day, 100%. But I used to use so much, it just weren't possible how I used to use every day. It just ain't possible. So, you know, I'd be a binger. You know, I'd go a few days, you know, use Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and have a couple of days off, then I'd use all weekend. You know, it didn't start off like that, but, you know, it started off like just a bit on a Friday, then Friday, Saturday, Sunday, then it's Tuesday, then it's Tuesday, Wednesday, you know, a couple of days off. So, yeah, I wasn't every day.
So effectively, the more successful you got, the more it opened up your drugs problem, because you could afford to actually do more. I
used to run a night, and I'd just take the door money and I would go off, and that would be my thing. You know, and it's funny because people just go, I just didn't know you did it. Like, because you'd be at a night and you'd be like, this is, you know, front of house. And, you know, like if I was running a party, I'd always be the go-to guy and stuff that, you know, because I would come across quite sensible and stuff like that. But then once I'm done, I'm off, and I'm off and running.
I suppose by the time you're going wonky, everyone else is wonky, and they've not really, they're not sort of evaluating you then, are they?
And then, like, you know, I'd run a night, and, you know, you'd always get them guys that I'd work with, and they'd always be wonky. So I didn't want to be that guy, and everyone was they'd be laughing about them. So it sort of took the shine off me. So I would just be right, cool, to sort out the money, and I would go, and then I would be off. You know, my using was like on my own and just indoors. You know, it was just a bit weird, to be honest with you. But I remember, like, when I first got clean, I was running a party in Hertford, and I was 5 days clean. It was a Friday night. And I remember being in the club thinking, what am I doing here? Like, what am I doing here? Like, how am I ever going to stop doing what I'm doing when I'm in here? But, you know, I can't explain a lot of it. I can't explain, you know, how I stopped. If that might sound silly to you, but I don't often understand it. You know, how can someone like me that just obsessively used stop drinking and using? But I know what I did to stop. You know, I know that you know, what happened was in 2010 I went to my first meeting. I just split up with a girlfriend, and she'd sort of told my dad and my brother a bit about what was going on, and people sort of knew what I was up to, but obviously didn't know what I was up to. And I went into recovery at 2010, and I'd met a guy in a meeting called Ian, and he was the first person I spoke to, and he said to me, "You have to stop drinking." And I was just like, drinking? Like, why? I didn't want to stop drinking. I just wanted to cut down. I wanted to use like once a month, you know, and that sort of stuff, and just have your beer, and that's all I wanted. But because of how I use and my obsessive nature, that's not possible. So I went out and I'd done another 4.5 years, and then my using just got really dark, and it just went down so many levels, you know. And I remember like one of my friends passed away, and you know, I'd use on anything. Do you know what I mean? He wasn't even a really good mate, but it was just like
just need any excuse. Yeah.
Well, you know, like it's my you know, and I'd use it 3 days, and we were going out. If you remember, we were going out to Rocco, weren't we?
Yeah.
And so I've been on a 3-day bender. I didn't want to let you down, and you know, so we'd gone out, and as soon as we got to the venue, I got out of the car and I just threw up everywhere.
Well, I remember that was the first. I think that was probably the first time that I was like, wow, because I've never really been around it, Ross. You know, like obviously I knew Dan when he went in 10 years prior, but I never realised how bad you'd got. And I remember you getting in the car and you couldn't speak.
Yeah.
And you sort of sitting in the back. I think I was driving.
Yeah.
And you were sitting in the back, and I was like, "You all right, mate?" and I was like, you looked kind of like
death.
like Gollum from Lord of the Rings. You know, you was all sort of twitchy and sitting in there, and I was like, oh, and Kat was sort of like apologising, and I remember you got out of the car and you literally threw up, and it was like, oh shit, like, you're in a bad way, man.
Yeah, that was dark. And the thing was that was just another weekend of every weekend.
It was just, I suppose it was just, it was the first time I'd really seen you like bad, you know.
Yeah, I remember you spoke about it and you sort of realised, and that was just another weekend. Do you know what I mean? It was like, I remember I'd organised a stag do for one of my pals, and I used all the night before right through. So when it was pick up time in the morning, I was like out of the game. So I was like, look, you know, I had to meet you there. So I was like 12 hours later saying to a stag do that I'd organised, and I turned up, and I drove all the way down there, sniffed all the way down there, used the whole weekend, drove the whole way back. Do you know what I mean? And it was just like, that was just what you did. You know, it was just normal.
Because anything for the buzz.
Yeah,
like, you know,
and there ain't even a buzz. There ain't even a buzz either. The buzz is probably before you get it. You know, so like we talk about it in recovery. So it's a phenomenon of craving, and you know, once the thought of using comes on, I can't stop thinking about it. But I get digi. So when I think about using, I get, do you know what I mean? And I get digi and I get twitchy, and then I throw up and stuff like that, and my body's just going, this ain't good. You know, I remember like after using a couple of days driving to a dealer, thinking, I don't want to do this. I do not want to do this, but what, mate? You know what I mean? And off and running again, and it just got it just got really dark, and you know, and there's a load of examples that I can use, that you know, of just using on my own for days, and you know, hiding in the bedroom and using in the dark and sniffing in the dark.
I remember you saying you used to take it through the letterbox, like you couldn't even open the door.
It's getting delivered.
Always remember that.
It's get delivered and stuff like that, and the money that you know, and there's like, you know, there's a million crazy things, and it's funny, people say to me, oh, like, it weren't that bad, was it? I'm like, you've got no idea. You know, like, that's the tip of the iceberg of some of the things that I did. And what happened was I met Kat, my wife, and, you know, she always said, like, you just having a different party from everyone else. Do you know what I mean? Like, just something else going on in there. And, you know, she was with me for a year until I got clean. And, you know, you shouldn't get clean for anyone else, but she's what saved me. You know, I talk about it all the time when I do this. She saved me, and you know, like when you want to carry on partying, you're being really horrible to them just to get rid of them. And she never left. She got as far as the car park once and come back and was like, I'm not leaving you.
Yeah,
you know,
she's a good girl. I love Kat.
Oh, you don't be. Oh, she's just an angel, isn't she? You know, and like I always say, oh, she's an angel. She was sent to save me, you know, from myself. And you know, eventually I went back to recovery at 30, you know, just before I come to 34, and you know, I messed around a lot, and I didn't want to do, you know, I was, I'm trying to get clean, I'm going to them meetings and that kind of stuff, and you know, last in, first out, and you know, because it's funny, because I say to Kat, I'm helping this person, don't want to help, and she said, well, that's what you were like, you know. So it's really easy to sort of judge. It's just, you know, recovery's about changing everything. It's about putting that action in, you know, and it's just about, you know, you got to want to get well.
Yeah.
You know, and I help a lot of people, and it's really hard, because I want their recovery more than they want it. You know what I mean? Like, I'm so like, yeah, cool, man. Like, this is what you need. This is what I did, and this is what you could do, and you know, I'll help you this, and let's go to a meeting, and people are like, and then they just like, then they disappear. You know, and sometimes they, you know, you don't hear from them, and you know, people we lose a lot of people in recovery, and it's just part of the course. And people that you come in with, you know, you get wrapped up around people, and most of them are not clean now.
Yeah.
I'm not saying some people die, and I don't know. I always say I'm lucky, but I don't know. But I didn't want to die. You know, I wanted to. I've had a chance to be reborn, and you know, life is completely different. You know, but I work at it, and like I say, I've been back for the steps recently, and you know, I work on myself every day. You know, I do meditation, and so from getting clean, that evolved until, like, you know, I've done meditation, I've done Buddhist stuff. You know, I do loads of cold water stuff. You know, where I live as a lake. You know, I was jumping in there in the winter on my own, just cracking the ice and getting in, and you know, and I've done loads of really cool stuff, and I've made loads of mistakes. I've done some really silly stuff when I got clean as well. But it was just about, pushing myself on what else can I do and what else can I achieve. I remember when I got a year sober, I put on quite a bit of weight and stuff like that, and I was eating loads, and I was sort of thinking, well, you know what, I'm not drinking and using, so that's all right. And I got to a year, and I thought, well, you know what, I haven't drunk for a whole year. Like, maybe I can look at this food stuff, and you know, that's been a real up and down journey. You know, at the moment, I'm in a good place with it, and I hope that continues. But you know, my experience is I just go through phases. You know, and I know you're quite similar. You know, we go through phases. We're on it, and then you know, like, and then I'm out of it, and I can never see myself getting back into it, and I get back into it again. So, you know, I'm in it at the moment. I hope I stay.
Taking the positives, obviously, listen, you've been through a hell of a lot up to now, but the music's always been such an important part of your life, and you've obviously played some mad places. Like, talk us through the best and worst places you've actually played.
Yeah, so, like so many. So, like, I started off at like Rifles, Your Old Manor. That was when I started playing. But so I'm really lucky. So I'd done all the Essex places. So I used to do like Warehouse, which I loved. I loved all the people that played there, the Paul Gardners, and you know, so Warehouse. To do Charlie Chan's was good. So I played a lot of Essex. I used to do 195. So I played all them kind of places. Faces. I was a resident of Faces for a long time. Where else? So then I'd done Emporium. I was a resident at Emporium in London, which was probably one of my favourite ever residencies. That was really good. It was a really cool time to play there as well. So that was really good. I'll tell you a story actually as well about that. So I used to do the Brit Awards as well. That was really good. And I remember we was come back from the Brit Awards with Ricky from Dog and Whistle and one of my friends, and I had my vinyl. We was playing vinyl then. And you remember you used to get them dodgy cabs out of London.
Yeah.
All you youngsters on there. So before Ruben, that sort of stuff, you'd come out of a club, there'd be a geezer there, and you'd say, taxis? Say, yeah. They weren't taxis. You knew they weren't taxis. They knew they weren't taxis, but you jump in, and he'd say to us, where do you live? And we'd say, just past Enfield. We're a little bit past Enfield, but we'd say, just past Enfield, mate. And then you'd strike a deal with him to Enfield a bit further. Then as you drive from Enfield to Broxbourne, he's going, mate, what's going on here? It's not just past Enfield. And so I've done the Brit Awards, and threw my vinyl in the back, and then I got to my mate Ricky's house, Hoddesdon, and the cab drove off, and I looked at him and I went, oh my God, I'd left my vinyl in the back of the cab. It was like, it was.
That's your life as well back then, yeah.
Life. So it's before eBay and all that sort of stuff. So we were playing vinyl then. So I used to, to go to London and get all my stuff, and I used to go to second-hand shops, like car boots. So I'd go anywhere to get this. So this is before eBay. So a lot of these stuff are white labels. You'll never get this stuff again. Yeah. So that was my life. I had 2 bags, and I'd just done a Brit Awards, and luckily my friend Ricky, I don't know how he done this, but he literally, from when I stood there and was, oh my God, he ran in the house, got his car keys, jumped in the car, drove down the road, pulled the guy over, got my vinyl back, and I owe him that for the rest of my life. And that was, that was just like, it was just, yeah. So we used to do the Brit Awards, like I said, so he's playing Emporium, he's playing Funky Buddha, he's play all these kind of places, all that, like, and it's really different. I don't know, the West End's not like that anymore. But he's got to play these sort of places. I've done a bit of Ibiza. I lived abroad. I lived abroad in Faliraki for a couple of years as well. So I've done loads of cool stuff. But actually, the truth is, since I got clean, I've probably done more cooler stuff.
Yeah.
Like, I've achieved more in an industry that I thought I would have to stop working in, and I've actually achieved more. I've played more cool places. So since I've got clean, I played at Ocean Beach. I've run an event at Ocean Beach. I played in Uganda recently. I worked at a charity, which I can go talk a bit about. My friend Kai and Emily own a charity, which I've worked at, and I sponsor someone over there. And that was one of the greatest. I went to Uganda when I got clean, and I sponsor someone over there, Jonan, and I get his school reports sent through stuff, and I get photos of him sent. He's always wearing my clothes, so
probably the same size to him.
Yeah. Do you know what? He's really skinny, but he's taller than me, so it's getting awkward now because his feet are bigger than mine as well. So yeah, I sponsor someone in Uganda, and that really helps me sleep at night.
Yeah, I bet. Yeah.
You know what? Like,
it puts things into perspective, doesn't it?
Honestly. I was chatting with someone about it, and they were like, yeah, well, you know what, they need to, you go, oh, well, they need to help themselves and all that sort of stuff. And I was like, mate, mate, how? There's not like a local big Marks, but then go and work there. They live in huts. Like there's no
There is no money.
There's no. It's not like they live in London in like ghetto and there's nothing there. And I was like, you don't understand. Like, so the school that my friend owns, a lot of the kids there are orphans. So the size of this room that we're in now, this is to be the size of the room that a lot of them stay in. They all stay in bunk beds. So a lot of them haven't even got parents.
Yeah.
These kids, and when I say they're happy, they're so happy, and it melts your heart. And I went over there and we helped build the school. And like I say, I sponsor someone over there, and I get sent his school reports, his pictures of me in his clothes. Poor kid.
Don't you but don't you actually sort of realise like how lucky we are? You know, like to imagine taking that kid there and giving him your life where you grew up.
Yeah.
It'd be like something like Richie Rich.
Yeah,
you know, like,
at Fresh Prince of Bel-Air.
Yeah, literally. You know, but they're smiling. You know, I've told this story before. When we went to do Brussels to Brighton, I remember I was so stressed. I think I was going through a bad time with my ex-missus.
Yeah.
It still gives me grief now. And then I remember seeing a tramp on the side of the road. Actually, I'm not allowed to say tramp. I got as a homeless person on the side of the road. And he was living in a tent. And I remember I was walking down the road, and like again, I might have even told you, you might not even know, but I was welling up inside. I was so stressed, I wanted to cry. And I looked over and I just see this guy, and he's just beaming. He's got this big beaming smile on the side of the road. Probably half a litre of whiskey inside him. Might have been playing a part. But I just remember thinking, you're so happy. You've got nothing and you're happy. You know, we live a good life, and I'm so miserable.
Yeah.
You know, who's doing it right? I'm not saying it's right to go and jack it all in and go and live in a 2-berth tent on the side of the A10, but there is, and I think the older you get, you realise there is more to life than material things.
Yeah, definitely. As a hyper watch. Yeah. You know what I mean? But yeah, it's true. Like I get wrapped up in that material stuff, and they're kids in Uganda, so you give them something, and they split it and they give it out straight away.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And I guess that's what I've learned in recovery is about helping other people. And you know, I think that we're put on this earth to help each other. Otherwise, what are we here for? Do you know what I mean? I don't fundamentally, I don't know why we're here, but I do think that we're here to help each other.
But don't you think British as a nation, you look at our cultures, they're different, and I think it's actually the UK is changing other people, because I think you go back 20, 30 years ago, you look at like big Greek populations and the Greek friends, and they're going round each other's houses and they're doing big barbecues, and he wants a all plastered, so he does it for him, and he helps him out in his shop, and they're just helping each other. Exactly what you're saying there. They're just sharing the love out. I think there seems to be a lot more jealousy and competition.
Yeah.
You know, everyone's trying to be better than their mate rather than actually just bring your pal up.
100%.
Bring him up with you. You know, it's all good. You don't need to be better than him. Help him.
Yeah.
Like, you know, like you it's a lonely place at the top if you're on your own.
Yeah. Yeah, I totally agree. And what I love about one of our friends, Joe, obviously he's Italian, is they're really big on that, and I love that.
Yeah.
They all know each other, they all sit together and they all help each other out. My cousin does this, and if he wants something done, my cousin, and they all get each other in. I think that's great.
Yeah.
You know. And that's what recovery's taught me, is just like trying to help someone and sort of be a good person. But getting back to places that were played. So since I got clean, I've been running a lot of big parties. So you know, I do a lot of so I run the but you know, I do an ICAP charity day.
That looks really cool.
Yeah, it's really good. It's really good, and we get some really big names and stuff in there, and that's really cool. So we literally set the decks up in the office and do sax and bongos, and we get like Simon Cowell, and it's some really cool. But he's a really nice Simon Cowell. He's been there the last couple of years, and you think because he's on TV, he's horrible. And I saw a thing the other day about him, and he's a really nice guy. He really talks to really.
Did you listen to the podcast with Stephen Bartlett? Yeah, actually, I thought he come across so well on that.
And that's how he is. So Stephen Bartlett said, "Oh, when you come in, Simon," he goes, you've spoken to everyone." He goes, "On my crew, and you took time with them." And he goes, "A lot of people come in, don't even speak to me." He goes, and that's what he's like. So I do their charity day. So tomorrow I'm doing Trevor Nelson's golf day charity day as well, which I'm a bit nervous about because.
Did you do it last year?
No, it's the first year. So I've done the James Madison Golf Day as well.
That was it.
Yeah, that was last year. So yeah, so because what I'm saying is, by getting clean, it's made me much more attractive to people to work with
All day long, yeah.
because I'll answer the phone when I need to be. I'm very, I'm organised. I'm on it, and so when I got clean, I set up my own events company. We do loads of cool stuff now. We do charity events. We do corporate stuff. We do weddings. I played away a lot. I played in Vegas. I played in Marbella. I'm in Santorini in a couple of months, which is awkward because the twins are coming. It's so stressful.
It's a few hours away. You've got to look at it like that.
Yeah. Well, so the plan is that I go play Santorini, come back, and then the twins are born. That's what we're booking in.
Yeah.
But, I'm hoping. I keep sending caps just to keep them in till then. But yeah, so next year I'm booked in.
I don't mind covering you in Santorini if you need to.
Yeah, thanks, mate. Yeah, I don't know.
I'm good like that.
I don't know if Brian and Groom are going to be up for that, but they're good friends of ours as well. So that's even Kat's saying that you need to go. So, but yeah, next year I'm booked to Lake Como already, booked in Montenegro. I've run yacht parties as well. Like I did a lot of this stuff before I got clean, but not on the level that I am now.
Yeah. I think you're taking your business serious now, aren't you, as well?
Yeah, and like I got booked for an event this week, and I looked at the lineup, and I don't want to come across and sound like I'm anything special because I don't think I am at all. But I looked at his lineup and I thought, God, these are guys that I dreamed about playing with.
Yeah.
And I had some interaction with them. But a lot of these are people who've all become my friends now. I've done a DJ with a guy last year, and I remember listening to his tape packs when I was a kid. And he's a friend of mine now, and I played. It was the first gig we done together. And and he signed his book for me and stuff like that. And I always say to him, I know this is a bit weird, but because we're mates and stuff. Said, but growing up, and like people there's a lot of DJs, and I don't know, it's weird. I'm really grateful that by getting clean, I've made my dreams come true.
Yeah,
as cheesy as that might sound to anyone listening, like I've achieved more than I ever dreamed of.
But you must be best part of 30 years in the industry now.
Yeah, 30 years. Yeah.
So you look at listen, you're putting the time in like like what these guys done.
Yeah.
You're in there and you are going to start mixing with them because you are, again, you've not dipped in and dipped out. You've been consistent.
Yeah.
And everyone loves Robin S.
Yeah, everyone loves Robin S. But you know what? It's funny because a lot of these kids, they come through now and they want to be. It's different. Like, so I work for a festival we've got a festival in a couple of weeks and I work for that as well. So I do a lot of artist liaisons.
The Dog and Whistle one.
Yeah, Dog and Whistle one. Get your tickets online, dogandwhistle.com. And I run a lot of the artist liaison as well because I love it. So I get to meet the DJs, take them through, set them up. They want drinks, stuff like that, which is quite funny. Like I carry the riders around, stuff like that. So I carry their alcohol around for them to the booth and make sure they're happy and if they need anything else. And they got a nickname for me at the Dog and Whistle. I can't remember what it is, but it basically is like the party. What's it? I can't remember what it's called, but it's like. Anyway, the nickname basically is a party guy that keeps everyone partying, and that's my nickname. So even though I don't drink, like if they're like, "What do you want?" They want. So I go.
Not old Van Wilder,
was it? Van Wilder. Yeah. So they call me Van Wilder. I didn't know what it was. So like
party liaison.
Yeah. So I just keep the party going. But so I deal with a lot. So I love so some of the artists deal with a fine. Some of them you just like they're so above themselves and so ahead of themselves, and there's no longevity in that. All they're doing is playing other people's music. They've made a couple of tunes. Most of these people are not even making their own music these days.
No.
Most of them not. And it is funny. It's a funny industry where everyone thinks there's something special. And I find that the middle of the road people are the worst ones. They're kind of like the more jumped up. I think you find the ones at the top are normally pretty good. Most of them, not all of them, but they. But where they've been around a long time, there's longevity in being nice to people and stuff.
Yeah.
You get these kids come up and. But yeah, so I do a lot of that artist liaison stuff as well, which I really enjoy doing. And, like the stuff that we're planning to do, like the big gigs, they're just going to get bigger. I've got so many more plans. And actually, funny enough, so thank you. I'm shooting my podcast next week here. Thanks, mate, for that.
No problem, mate.
So yeah, I won't go too much into it, but I basically, I've had an idea around a podcast of what I want to do. What I originally wanted to do, and what I wanted to do the last couple of years, do a podcast around DJs that have got clean and, and have changed their life. There's not that many DJs that do that. So that idea sort of went out the window because I was sort of going, right, well, there's only a few DJs I could get on the podcast.
Yeah, right. We've got Brandon Block.
Yeah, Fat Tony.
Fat Tony.
Yeah, and it was like, and then another. It's really awkward. I don't even want to say some of these people. It's not my place to say their story. But there's another girl that got clean. She's a good friend of mine. She's really cool. She's really out there, and look, and she's putting herself out there. So I'm not saying what she's doing, but it's not my place to tell their story. But I looked at it and thought, well, actually, there's not many guests I can get on. So I've approached a station about an idea that I had, and they said to me, "Yeah, it sounds cool. Go away and shoot the pilot." So next week we've got Alex P on, who again, someone I've become friendly with in DJing, and him and Alex are like iconic. Alex and Brandon are iconic in our industry. And Brandon's someone I'm really close with now, and we share music and chat on the phone. And I've been I've been in his house, and it's really funny. But and these are two people that I just would have grown up being like icon, just like
yeah.
And Alex is going to be a great guest. Yeah, Alex is going to be a great guest. So I'm shooting that pilot on air next week, and that'll hopefully get released. So you'll see Brett will go, and I'll take his place.
Yeah.
I like to say hunkier version, but
definitely slimmer. I don't know about hunkier.
Yeah. But yeah, so and that's just an idea I've had, and that may or may not work. But if they don't want to roll with it, I can take that podcast, and I've got some really big ideas around that and stuff. And I've set up a wellness business as well. I've took my foot off the gas with it, but I've got some big plans. I'm just holding back on a few things on that I'm trying to do. And I've got some really good trainers and stuff like that. And I'm not qualified in this industry. I've got experience around it, and I know about what people need to do. But I've got trained doctors and really cool trainers that can be going into businesses and teaching their staff. So if anyone's interested, contact me around that.
I think that's such a good idea, and something that so many businesses do need. There's a big gap in the market for awareness.
100%. And so I've been doing a bits in around that, and we've done a talk last year. And I'm slowly working with that. I've done, like I say, my first sober. So when I've done a sober event, I like to do it around where we just get people and we just talk a bit about what we do. And I go to loads of seminars all the time. I'm always going to stuff, and I'm always listening to podcasts. I'm always reading books. I'm always just trying to educate myself and fill my head with. I'm trying to fill my head with stuff and being positive and all these, like, it's a bit woo-woo and all that sort of stuff, but just trying to live a different way. Am I perfect? No. Do I live like a monk? No. But, I'm just trying to be better. I go gym 6 days a week. I train 5 days a week. I thought when I got cleaned up with one of them ripped geezers with the muscles, that hasn't been my story. I don't think I'll ever be that guy. But, I go in there, so good for mental health. I never used to be a morning person. First, when I woke up, I thought, right, I'm going back to bed. The first thing I do was sleep, and I've never been a morning person. I'm up at 5:30 pretty much every day, even on my days off. I go gym, I go out running, and I just try and, like, seize the day. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, it is, but it is so good. It's so good. Like I said, the way you've changed your life, it is inspirational to so many people.
Thanks, mate.
Even to me. It's like, I look at, like I said, we've got so many similarities, but we are on different paths.
Yeah.
But I do look, and you're out training, you're doing this, you're doing that, and you seem like you fit so much into a day. And sometimes I do look and I just think, well done, mate.
Yeah,
I'm
thanks,
proud
mate.
of you.
And thanks, mate. And do you know what as well? Like, it's about mixing with them people as well. Do you know what I mean? It's about, like, if I go out, like, I've learned so much from you, about what you do in business, and it's about mixing in people. Do you know what I mean? If I go out to you and we'll go with dinner or something like that, and you're telling me about what you're doing and stuff like that, and I've learned so much from you. But if I go out with my mates and I'm sniffing drink gear, and which person am I going to learn from?
Yeah, of course.
You know what I mean? I can go out with them people, that's fine, but I'm not going to learn and stuff. And, like, I've made a mess of a lot of stuff, so I'm not hanging around anymore. I want to get going with this stuff, and I want to be mixing with people like you that want to do positive stuff and want to change themselves. Like.
I think so many people are scared of starting anything because I think they fear failure.
Yeah.
And what I've seen you do in the last 5 years is just being another business. Let's give it a go.
Yeah.
And if you get a year in and it's not quite panning out, it don't matter.
Yeah.
You're not lost anything.
Yeah.
I've
learned a lot, and I've worked with a couple of life coaches, and I've been off and on with that, and it just sounds cheesy, but I just want to be better. I don't want to be. in a mental place where I'm at, and then like it comes and goes, you know. Like some days I get bad days, you know. I'm not superhuman, but I know what I need to do to get out of it. I know I need to be consistent. You know, this stuff's about consistently. So if I want to can change, I've got to be consistent.
Yeah.
You know, like this stuff don't happen overnight. You know, I didn't just start DJing and playing at festivals. It took a while.
Yeah, of course.
You know what I mean, I've you talk about the best and worst places. Like I played in nightclubs where I'm DJing, they've come in, they go, right, we're closing. Do you know what I mean? And I'm like, we haven't even opened and we're closing. Do you know what I mean? Because there ain't enough people, and you know. So I play in some places, and I'm like, what am I doing here? Do you know what I mean? But you got to do the good to get to where you are, you know. And I've had to learn my trade, and so everything's about consistency. You know, like if I want to change, you know, I've got to do something daily. You know, I do a daily routine. I start my way in a certain way, you know, and I just. Yeah, you know, it's just about that consistency, and I just try things. If it doesn't work, I try something else. And I've made loads of failures, and you know, I've learned a lot from my mistakes.
I think the best people fail loads. You know, that's it. You've just got to keep getting up and getting on with it. I think that's life.
Well, Simon Cowell, he went bankrupt. Do you know what I mean? He talks about it on the podcast. You know,
Peter Jones bankrupt twice.
Oh, did he? I didn't know that.
Twice.
Yeah. So, and one of the guys that coaches that I work with, he said, you know, I've learnt more from my failures than I from my successes.
Massively.
And, but yeah, you know, like I'm not, you know, I'm not book smart either. You know, I find that stuff really difficult. So I just try and what am I good at? You know, I'm enthusiastic. You know, I'm energetic. You know, so I just try. You know, can I be on time? And I'm always early. You know, I'm up early. You know, like I'm very thorough and. You know, I'm keen just to learn, and I don't know everything. Do you know what I mean? And I just try and focus on what I can do rather than what maybe I think I can't. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And just get someone else to do the stuff that I'm not good at. You know, I'm really bad. I'm really dyslexic. I really find like writing emails really bad. So you know, I've been really trying to get better at stuff like that. And most of the stuff I send out is, you know, I get someone to check it all and stuff like that.
Yeah.
You know, really, really basic stuff, but I just try and focus.
That's what happens when you get kicked out of school at 5 years old, mate.
Yeah, do you know what I mean? Yeah.
It's always going to come back and haunt you.
Yeah. So, that's true. Yeah.
That's what I'd like to see. I genuinely like to see. I've never ever heard of anyone being kicked out of 5 years old.
Do you know what?
It can't be beaten.
No one's ever beat me. No one's ever beat that.
It's insane.
You know, my friend that was in the same class, he got kicked out because he come join me a few months later, but no one has ever beat that. And yeah, I always bring that up. And yeah, no one's ever beat that.
Yeah, it's impressive.
If anyone can beat it, come on and let us know.
Yeah, please. Yeah. And how's life going to change with two new little beings running around?
So I think I'm really oblivious to how it's going to change. And it's funny because people keep saying, "Oh, you have to stop that DJ and stuff like that." But you know, my wife's really supportive. You know, it pays the bills. You know, so you know, so.
Do you know what I like about your missus? I love the fact that she's carried on living her life as well. She still goes out and parties. She still looks like she has the time of her life.
Yeah, she does.
Do you know what I mean? And
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah.
I like the fact that she's not felt the need to sort of become whiter than white just because of what you're doing.
Yeah.
Like I there's something about that I just love, you know, because it's like it's almost like she's so supportive, but it's kind of like you've got to be supportive of her as well, you know, like yeah, really, I love that. I see sort of Cat out again on social media, and I think, go on, girl.
Yeah.
You know,
it's just so funny. So there's loads of videos of Cat. Have you
abusing
seen
you, mate? Yeah,
abusing me. So she gets drunk and abuses me, and it's really funny. She's like calls me like four-eyed prick, and, all this sort of, and she wears glasses as well. There's loads. So we've got like a long video of her like she gets drunk. So it's funny. So she's so supportive. So when we go on holiday, like she don't drink. So we go, you know, we go all inclusive and she won't drink. And I say, have a drink. She's like, sometimes she will. She'll have one glass of wine. She goes, I'm all right. So she's really supportive. She said, you know, I just want to get up early and I want to do something in the day. And then when she goes, she goes. You know what I mean? She go out with a friend and I'm always encouraging her to go out and enjoy herself. So, yeah, she keeps saying about the comeback when she's back out with the twins. But, you know, I do think I'm a bit oblivious to how it's going to be with twins. And everyone keeps saying it's going to be so hard. But I don't know. You know, I've never had any kids. So, you know, I'm only ever going to know what it's like to have two. But I know that you know, my business is doing really well when it needs to be running. So, you know, that's going to stay in. I'm going to have to cut back on stuff. But, you know, we just learn as we go along, right? You know, we're not the first people to have twins and we're not the first people to have kids.
Do you think you'll give up your day job at any point soon?
I hope my brother don't listen to this. He won't. He probably will, actually.
He will.
No, I don't know. Look, I don't know, you know, there's stuff going on, you know, and of course I've thought about, so the thing is at the moment, like next week I work 7 days a week, like I work a lot in the day, I work a lot at night, I get home, I have emails I do, or so there's a lot. It is a lot, plus I do meetings, plus I help people, and plus I've got Kat, and I've got twins. So
that's what I mean. I feel like if I put your diary in blocks, I can't see which ones are free.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And obviously you're going to need to free up some of them.
Yeah. I don't know. I just, like anything, I guess we just learn as we go along, and we'll make it work. But yeah, I don't know what the future holds. I've got some plans and stuff like that, and I know that if my recovery comes first, ultimately it comes first. I've changed meetings, and I do a different meeting now near where I live, and that's been really good. So that's really changed. I'm nearer to home, and I still do a couple of meetings a week. When I can, if I've got a Saturday off or something, and Kat's not about, I'll go to a meeting. I love going to meetings. I love hanging around with my people. Do you know what I mean? I really like that, and so that, and long may that continue. I know that if I'm in meetings, I'm doing recovery, that stuff comes first, and the rest will work itself out. What I need to do for my twins is stay clean and sober. Ultimately, nice. and for Kat, and I know that everything else will work itself out. And bad stuff's going to happen. What I mean? I've lost some this year. I've had some really, really sad stuff this year. I lost two of my close recovery friends in the last couple of years.
Really?
Wayne and Sarah. Wayne,
yeah, of course, yeah.
Sarah passed away, and they passed away clean and sober. So stuff's going to happen. But it's just about, I just try and keep it in the day. Like if I look at my diary, if I look too far ahead, it freaks me out. That's the truth of it, and I just try and keep it in the week. I keep it week to week, and and that works for me. I'm organising, I'm planning ahead, and if I'm doing someone's party or doing something, it's organised, it's done, it's dusted. But for me, I just try and keep it in that week and go, right, what's on this week, and then otherwise it does blow my brain sometimes.
Yeah. No, I think you'll be a good dad. I think you'll be all right. I think you find the time, because you have to find the time.
Yeah.
Yeah, just it worries me weird with you, because your diary's crazy.
Yeah, I know. But I'll be trying to taper down and like spend more time at home with Kat. So I'm used to being at home and stuff like that. And it's like, so I still do a lot of Zooms and stuff in the weekend, in the week when I get home and stuff like that. So there's always stuff going on. But I'm going to take the time off, and I say that around August and September, I'm so busy with DJing stuff. So busy, it's ridiculous.
Yeah.
And I keep getting stuff in, but I want to make sure the girls have got everything, and we're buying stuff. We've got the expensive pram already and all that kind of stuff, and I just want to make sure that they've got everything that they have.
How much is a pram these days?
Mate, I don't know. We spent 1,800 quid on ours.
Ridiculous. A small car.
Someone said to me the other day. That's with the seats as well. So don't remember, we've got the seats as well. So, do you know what I mean? And we got down a deal. We got about 800 quid off of it. So it's just all singing and dancing pram. And I'm looking at everything. Yeah, it is scary. We've got to get just two of everything, right?
Yeah, of course, yeah.
Two of everything.
Of course,
two of everything. But so I'm a twin. I've got a twin sister. Kat, my wife's mum, is an identical twin. My wife's nan's an identical twin. So that's 4 generations of twins. So
it was due.
It was meant to be.
Yeah.
So my dad laughs because he's like, I hope they're like you, and then you'll realise what you put us through. So, but even now, like with the twins, like even one of them, we think, because like I wanted to take after Kat and be calm and stuff, but even one of them's playing up already, and we're like, that's the one that takes after you. So even like getting the scans and stuff. So
no, mate.
But yeah,
big changes.
It's and for us, and it's I won't go too much into it, but it's been a journey on that stuff, and that that's the stuff for another day. But that's the stuff that blokes don't talk about.
No, of course, yeah.
We've lost kids and stuff like that, and I won't go too much into it because, but yeah, blokes don't talk about that stuff, and it's really difficult. And we've had, we got to a point where we had quite a frank chat, and we said, look, I don't think this is going to work for us, and as you know, Kat, well, like she deserves. She's so amazing with like even with my like dogs. Like I watch her with kids and how she is with them. Like she's so natural. Like, I have to work really hard at that stuff. She's so naturally loving and that. And it's just that we just thought it weren't going to work. You know what I mean? And we had some other stuff go on and stuff like that. And we had a bit of a frank chat. We said that maybe this ain't for us. And we're just going to go and see the world. and then it happened,
Yeah.
and then it's twins, and it's like, oh my God,
It's meant to be.
it's meant to be,
Yeah. Yeah.
you know. So yeah, the future's exciting, but yeah, you know, I'll definitely take the foot off the gas. I don't know how it's going to work, but I'll make it work, you know.
Yeah, I'm sure.
The big gig's going to keep coming, and the bigger one's going to keep coming after that, and yeah, I've got some big plans in the next few years.
Well, I was just going to say, obviously, we have to wrap this up shortly, but like, what's the next 5 years for you? Like, where is it going?
The wellness business is going to grow. That's going to grow. I've got some plans around that, things that I want to do. So we're going to grow that because that's really needed. So I'm really conscious. So I help people in recovery, and all my time in recovery is free, and that's never going to change. And what I'm not trying to do is I'm not trying to sell recovery to people. What my trainers do, you know, we look at mental health, ADHD. You know, these are really trained professional people. So it's going to be pushing that business and my events. You know, I've tried to link the two, and I think I'll continue to do that, linking the two in. You know, I'm in a really fortunate situation where you know there's not people doing what I do. You know, it's quite unique that you know, I work in that industry. There's not that many of us out there, so I'll be banging the drum, keep knocking on the doors. People just trying to help people. You know, I spoke to a lot of big brands and stuff as well. You know, I've done some. You know, I deal with some big companies and stuff now, and host a lot of stuff as well. And so I know the next 5 years we're just going to be growing that and doing some bigger stuff and dealing with bigger brands. And yes, I'm really excited. I think, like you say, that
there's a gap there to be exploited.
100%.
And listen, the more like we run a profit organisation, not a non-profit organisation. We're not a charity. Mm-hmm. The more successful you are, the more people you can help.
Yeah.
You know, like sort of profit is sometimes seen like a dirty word, but it shouldn't be.
Yeah.
And I think, like you say, the more money you are making as a business, you can help people.
Yeah.
You can make certain things better. You can give away more. And, you know, you do nice things for people. You know, I hate it when people look at money as a bad thing, because in the right hands, money can be a really, really good tool where you can help so many people.
Yeah. And I know that we can help people. You know, I know. You know, I just think there's some. You know, I'm quite. I think of mad ideas all the time. So I'm always knocking on doors. I'm always messaging. Why don't we try this? Why don't we try that? And you know, I come up with some really big ideas of things that I want to do. And I guess just watch your space. But I know what we do can help people.
Yeah.
You know, like I could tell you a million things now today to go away and do, but you've got to consistently do it. You know what I mean? People go, I've tried meditation. We tried it once. You know, like, give me 30 days.
Yeah.
You know, do something consistently. You know, with recovery, with drinking, like a lot of people do dry January and stuff like that. I say, you know, give me 100 days. That's when you'll see the benefits. You know, that's when you'll see, you know, your skin will change and, you know, you'll look healthy. And I see people now, they go, bloody hell, like, what have you been doing? Like, I same drugs 10 years, nearly 10 years. I'm not getting ahead of myself, but so I know there's like a million things that we can do. You know, like I say, I've got some really cool trainers, so we can really show. And a lot of companies, a lot of people don't know what, you know. It's very difficult to know what to do. I've been in a situation where I'm like, I have no idea what to do.
Yeah,
you know. Yeah. But there's people out there, and like I say, I've got some guys that work that around me that can really help. You know, I think we can make a lot of changes. You know, especially in the music industry as well. You know, it's an industry. I knock on the door, and I've spoke to a lot of the big brands, the big and you know, and they're interested, but I think there's a lot of fear around it. But, you know, I'm going to change the stigma. I'm going to change that, and, you know, I'm going to make a difference. I know that because it's got to be done. You know, not just in the music industry, but, you know, I'm going to keep banging on doors until people are listening.
Nice, mate. Nice.
You know, and, you know, it's like, be the change that you want to see. You know, I really believe that, you know, and I ain't special. You know, I'm not anything different from no one else. I'm just a little bit further down the line than some people in my sobriety, and that's it. You know, I'm just trying to make a difference, and I know that, you know, that we will the next 5 or 10 years, definitely.
I look forward to seeing it, mate.
Thanks, mate. Just one day at a time. I just look forward to meeting the twins. How do you feel about being an uncle?
Mate, I'm there.
Yeah.
I'm there. Yeah, Uncle Bretty.
Uncle Brett.
Can't wait. Can't wait. Listen, let's wrap it up.
Mate, thanks so much for asking me on.
No, it's been a pleasure, mate, always.
Mate, thanks for letting me use the studio next week as well. I really appreciate that. So, yeah, you'll catch me next week with Mr. Alex P, talking about Ibiza and the crazy stuff. It's going to be wicked. He's so funny, Alex. So, yeah.
And what's your events company?
So, my events company is called RM Event Solutions. That's www.rmeventsolutions.com. My wellness company's rmwellness.co.uk. So just catch me on Insta, DJ Ross Mac on Insta. But I'll hopefully put the links up as well.
Yeah,
So
of course,
if you're interested, do you know what? Like I answer all the messages and stuff like that. Like even if you know someone that's really struggling, like just drop me a message and you know I can, you know, I've helped people all around the country. I've got friends all around the country. So if people are struggling, you know, ultimately, you know, if you want to message me about a party, great. If you want to message me about other stuff, great. But ultimately, if you just want to chat about someone who's struggling, just message me. That's the primary thing. Message me and I can help them get into a meeting somewhere around the country. So, you know, I've been around a bit. I've got a lot of good friends and stuff like that. So I can help you. Yeah, so if you know anyone who's struggling, drop me a message and I'll help you. I'll give you just push you in the right direction.
Blinding, mate.
Thanks, mate.
Well
Thanks
done,
for having
son.
me. Thanks, brother.
Top man.
Thanks, mate. Cheers, Reggie.